ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be looking into the Roanoke Park, and let's see what they tell us about this park. Done a couple boots on the ground explorations around there, so we've gotten a pretty good look at this place. I do plan a few more explorations. It's a pretty big area, but let's see what they have to say. I'm on this. This must be the Roanoke Park website. The area of Roanoke Park was originally a largely underdeveloped section of the woods between the frontier towns of Kansas City to the north and Westport to the south. Already they're telling us that this was a largely underdeveloped area. As the population increased throughout the 19th century, homes and businesses began to be developed in the area. The South Highlands Land and Improvement Company and other developers saw the value that preserving the wooded ravines of the area could have to adjacent real estate values. Year, I'm not sure what this means. It has year in parentheses. In year, George E. Kessler was engaged by Kansas City's newly formed Board of Park Commissioners to design a park and boulevard system, including Roanoke Park. His work in Kansas City stands out as one of the early touchstones in the field of landscape architecture. The rolling terrain and wooded bluffs of Roanoke Park were particularly suited to Kessler's naturalistic style. Is that right? So here we are. Mr. George Kessler is attributed for developing and landscaping this park here once again. And I will ask the question again. Does this place look beautified to you guys? Took a very good look around here, and it looks like it's in complete ruins. According to the Park Board report of 1907, this property should be held as a bit of wilderness, which is now its charm and which would be entirely lost if attempts were made to finally finish any part of this valley. In this old quarry west of Roanoke Ave and north of 38th Street, the very fine spring there should be developed, a pool and a modest water garden. Its value to adjacent residents is recognized no less today as an asset for social interaction, recreation, exercise, and enjoyment of natural beauty. Not entirely sure what spring or pool or modest water garden they're referring to, unless it's the area that we stumbled upon at the very end of my exploration. There look to be some water features around that area in complete ruins. We're to believe that, around 1907 this stuff was built, and now it looks like it does today, like a big melty mess. From the 1920 Souvenir Guide, The Park and Boulevard System of Kansas City, Missouri, revision and reprint of 1914 edition. Board of Park Commissioners, 1920, compiled and written by Fred Gableman, Missouri Valley Special Collections, Kansas City, Missouri Public Library. Park and Boulevard System has made Kansas City famous. The principle, which was adopted by Mr. George E. Kessler, landscape architect, for the Board of Park Commissioners, was to follow nature as closely as possible, to adapt the planning to the natural conditions. I think that was Mr. Kessler's excuse for not really doing any work and getting paid for it. What of the massive walls around this place that some are surviving and some look like they have been transformed into what they would tell us is natural. Did all of that occur over the last 100 years or so? I don't think so. But what the heck happened? That's what we're trying to figure out here, guys. I'm sure you are here looking for answers just like me, but all we usually find is more questions. Carnes Boulevard. This boulevard is a connecting link between Roanoke Park and Penn Valley Park and was named in honor of Mr. J.V.C. Carnes, a park commissioner. And actually, I mentioned those stone posts, the round ones. I mentioned that we saw something similar by the Liberty Memorial, and Penn Valley Park, I believe, is actually the area we were in. Roanoke Park. This park is a beautiful preservation of wooded ravines, lines with rugged cliffs in the western section of the city. Rugged cliffs, they say. That is a very interesting statement considering these look to be or have been built by somebody. It was entirely acquired by deeds of gift from the South Highlands Land and Improvement Company and others. Another gifted piece of land here, guys. A very common trend we are seeing. People are very generous with their lands. And sorry, I kind of split that sentence there. It goes on. Who had caught the spirit of conserving nature's beauty before it became marred, and of the resulting enchantment and value of nearby property. And this actually continues. I was kind of expecting it to end right there. We've got detailed history of Roanoke Park. Let's see what other information we can acquire here. A most authoritative and detailed account of Roanoke Park's history from the book A Legacy of Design, an historical survey of the Kansas City, Missouri Parks and Boulevard Systems, 1893 to 1940. Janice Lee, David Burtrose, Charlotte R. White, and Dion Wolfbarger, 1995. Published by the Kansas City Design Center in cooperation with the Western Historical Manuscript Collection, Kansas City. Good Lord, with the flippin' names here. I try to give credit where and when I can. The Board of Park Commissioners acquired Roanoke Park during 1901 to 1923. During 22 years, in a series of 7 gifts, totaling 11 tracts of land. The Roanoke Park neighborhood was a prominent residential district containing a rugged strip of land that promised to be difficult to successfully develop. To prevent undesirable growth and protect property values, nearby landowners and developers donated land for the creation of Roanoke Park. The South Highland and Improvement Company donated the first and largest 2 tracts in 1901 and 1905. And it's not letting me click on this photo, but this does look like that school that we drove past. And I don't recall seeing, we've got a surviving wall here. Oh wait, yes, this wall is still there. We walked along this. We actually walked right along this very road here, and then it goes down here. Forgot the school was that. It looks closer in this photo. This is mostly, these trees are pretty tall now, but it's about the best I can get in on this. Yep, there's the little stairway that looked completely just ancient. And the road looks to be dirt. And once again, I would be willing to bet money that there were bricks under there. Like the main section of this park still has its surviving brick road, which is beautiful. Grading and sidewalk construction began in 1905. In 1906, the main roadway through the park, then Roanoke Road, was completed. It extended for 0.77 miles from its northern terminus at Kearns Boulevard to 38th and Wyoming Streets. 38th Street from Mercer Avenue to Wyoming Street was also completed in that year, as well as the entry markers at Madison Avenue and 36th Street and at Valentine Road and Roanoke Boulevard. So they're telling us that these stone entry markers were installed around 1906. In 1907, the park entrance at 36 and Summit Streets was graded and sodded, shrubs were planted, and stone entrance markers were added. In 1909 and 1911, respectively, H.T. Abernathy, a neighborhood property owner, and Mary T. Whiteside donated land to park purposes. Plans and specifications were drawn up for the construction of a brick block pavement on Roanoke Boulevard at Valentine in 1918. So the surviving brick street that we were just talking about is said to have been developed or planned in 1918. Is that what I'm getting? Those bricks on that street look pretty rough for only being around 100 years old. In 1923, Wyoming Street at 36 became park property. One block between Madison Ave and Summit Street was also condemned for park purposes at a cost of $35,000 and became a park entrance. In 1932, a wading pool was constructed in the southwest corner of the park. A wading pool, southwest corner. I do not recall seeing such a thing. The park board approved the final plans and specifications for the Westport Roanoke Community Center designed by E.F. Pryor in 1962. In 1971, a 0.3-mile section of Roanoke Road intersecting the park became park property, and the park board renamed it Roanoke Boulevard. The park board also designated the boulevard a historic landmark that year because it was the sole remaining brick road in the park system. Here we are. They just confirmed my suspicions. So, what are we talking about exactly? Up here, they tell us that this one road was developed or designed and developed and paved with bricks. And then down here, they're telling us it is designated a historic landmark because it is the only surviving brick road in this area. A 1975 master plan for the redevelopment of Roanoke Park included the addition and improvement of playground and picnic equipment, fencing, curbs, sidewalks, and plantings. In 1978, the brick surface to Roanoke Boulevard was restored with pavers comparable to the originals. They are saying in 1978 they resurfaced this road with bricks that were comparable to the original. So I guess we went and, sourced some destroyed looking bricks so that we could resurface this road. 10 years later, the boulevard was again restored and was extended southward to Valentine Road. Also in that year, a marker designating Roanoke Boulevard as a landmark was installed at the boulevard's south end. Very interesting stuff we've got going on here. Usually it's extremely difficult to find any dates related to any kind of infrastructure. Still nothing on the massive amount of walls. We move to the integrity section. Roanoke Park retains its integrity of location and setting, and most of its integrity of design, materials, workmanship, feeling, and association. The park retains the original property boundaries established through donations to the Park Board from 1901 through 1923. The setting of houses and small estates clustered around the bluffs overlooking the park has not changed since the early 1900s. And small estates, there are a few, more modest homes in the area, but for the most part, they are very extravagant homes. Nothing has changed since the early 1900s, so I guess we can assume that the janky wall that was apparently built at the same time as the home on top of it out of the same janky limestone was existing at that time. The design authorship of Roanoke Park is unclear, but it resembles two other parks planned by George Kessler. So here they're saying the authorship is unclear. I thought that they told us that, this is one of George Kessler's mastermind projects here. Penn Valley Park and Hyde Park. Two more parks attributed to Mr. Kessler. The scenic narrow valley and wooded bluffs remain from the original design. That's right. Most alterations and additions have been made in the same rough limestone vernacular design and construction of the original, except for the modern community center building. There you go, guys. An excuse for this destroyed area. It was built to look that way. Roanoke Boulevard has retained its integrity of design, setting, and workmanship. It may retain integrity of material if it can be determined how much of the road was replaced with new brick during the 1978 restoration. And, as far as this road is concerned, there were some interesting, you know, I guess you would call them joint lines that weren't consistent with other areas of the road, which, maybe they went in and did some repairs or moved a few things around to try to salvage this destroyed brick street. Most of the stone steps, retaining walls, and piers are in good condition and retained their integrity of location, setting, and design, materials, and workmanship. And here we are. What are we doing with these words, guys? They're really trying to beat, you know, location, setting, design, materials, and workmanship into your freaking skull. The southmost marker at Valentine Road and Roanoke Boulevard has lost its integrity of design because it appears to have been altered. The pillar on the west side of Madison Avenue at 36th Street lost its integrity of design and workmanship when it was heightened and incorporated into another wall. If I hadn't seen this place firsthand, there are little words or spells here, setting, design, materials, and workmanship, might ring truth with me. However, I didn't really see any of this going on here, especially the design, materials, and workmanship. Like, what are we talking about? This place looks like it is in disrepair. And apologies, guys, I get a little fired up, when I have seen something with my own two eyes and then I am told something completely different. It's like lying to my face. But we will continue. I'm going to try to keep this one short and sweet. We've got one last little section here, significance. Roanoke Park is significant in the area of landscape architecture as an example of the natural style of park design. It possesses design characteristics typically associated with the master landscape architect George Kessler, which, you know, every park that we have looked at, I have not seen any kind of landscaping going on. So, what is this guy really doing? Fluid grading, winding drives, diversified plantings, massed and intermixed in natural looking meadows and woodlands, and rough limestone walls, steps, and park entrances. The adaptation of the park's built features to the rugged terrain reflects the skills of the designer. You've got to be shitting me right now. Skills of the designer, guys. This is what we are told, that it took skills to design this cluster F. In community planning, Roanoke Park is significant as an example of a large community park providing focus and a social center for its neighborhood. The park's history illustrates the integral role of private donors in consolidating the original land gifts. As in Hyde Park, and we haven't visited Hyde Park yet, residents and developers controlled and or improved the quality of adjacent development in order to protect land values. That's right. They keep going on, they did this to protect the values of their properties. But I think that's going to do it, guys. I did look for some older photos. They're extremely hard to find as far as the size and quality goes. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Keep it nice and short. I appreciate everybody watching, and I will see you on the next one.